there's a lot of talk about manifestation, and
Mm.
that's great. You can have whatever you want, but you can't have everything you want. So you can have anything, but you can't have everything. Manifesting isn't just about bringing in cars and houses and handbags. It's about growing because we don't take that with us. I mean, if we can all agree on one thing, it's that that's not coming with us, right? We're all on the same page there.
I just had the best conversation with Tirzah Shirai, a guest that is this week's episode, and I can't wait for you to meet her. Some of you may already know her, and this will be an expansion of information, hopefully. She's had incredible success in the corporate life, creating her own business that went to $30 million. And she's one of the most delightful people I have met in a long time. We talked about light bodies. We talked about being in truth. We talked about how to understand your own wiring and the challenges that come with that. And we are interested in bringing you into this conversation because the more of us that truly follow our heart and put the action in, we're going to create this absolutely amazing experience of being human. And I'm so grateful she had time to come talk on this podcast and to bring this information to you. And I do hope that you'll follow her and send in any questions you may have, and we'll have her back for 2.0. So thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. And I do hope you have the best of 2024. Okay. So, Tirzah, thank you so much for coming to our humble podcast, bringing your energy in. And I'm excited about this conversation. And I'm just grateful that you had the time to spend with us. So, I always think that people do a better job. You've been with you your whole life of introducing yourself than I can possibly do it. So, can you just give us a little synopsis of who are you? What you here on earth to do? What's fun?
First of all, thank you so much for having me today. I've been listening to your show. I think it's amazing the work that you're doing. So I'm honored to be here. And who am I? I mean, that's, I guess, a question all in its own. But, I was born in Canada, lived in Los Angeles for 18 years. I'm currently now in Georgia. And, I would say I've had success as an entrepreneur. I've also had a lot of success in my spiritual life. I've always had since a very young age. I think you can probably relate to this, a lot of different clairs and abilities but always kept those, I would say, very separate, or they were just felt very separate in my life until the grand initiation that was 2020, when both of those paths came together. And which we briefly touched on, I now have a new passion project, which is why I came to Earth. It was really took a while for me to go through a few initiations to really find my path. And it's really merging real world business practices. I've built very successful companies. I love branding and marketing and also the spirituality because I think where we are at, obviously not in this podcast or in between us, but in the world at large, there seems to be this great lacking on the boards I sit on or anything of just acknowledging that, hey, we are souls having a human experience, right? But I'm sure we've both heard that saying lots of times. And so I call it the grand conspiracy, which is there's a grand conspiracy that's out in the world at large that somehow we don't have souls. And I think until we get into more of a spiritual science discussion, right? Not a religious discussion, but hey, we all have souls. That's a fact. Whether you believe in it or you don't, we have them.
Right.
Until we merge them with our purpose and with our business, I feel like my job here is not complete.
Wow, that's a big job. Uh-huh. I obviously resonate with that because the soul and human collaboration, I feel like I'm on an inside track to some secret that shouldn't be a secret. Like, don't you just know this? Like, isn't it just known within you? But it's not. And, we have had many, probably thousands of years of trying to figure out how to do that in a non-religious way, although that's great if that's part of your spirituality. So I love that you talk about, the initiation. I called mine my cosmic 2 by 4. It's like, it just like smacked me upside the head. And I was like, oh, okay. So this is what we're doing. I have no idea what we're doing. So talk about that, because at the time you were in, don't let me lead your life here, but from what I read, you were in very much the day to day running a very successful BlinkBar is the name of the company. I'm interested in how you as a person, like,
Mhm.
had those conversations. Like, what did those conversations within you look like when your soul part, your humans part, were like, excuse me, we're going to work together now out in the public?
No,
Would that be how did
so
that go?
So a bit of backstory on my, I call it BC, my before COVID story was that I had built this company, an accidental entrepreneur, and I lived in a one bedroom apartment. I lived very simply in the early days of Blink Bar. And within 5 years, I grew it to $30 million company, no investors. And we were set to close our first round of funding in March of 2020. We had went to market in Q4 of 2019. We had one company taking the whole round down, and so it felt like it was 5 years of a treadmill, and it was all coming down to March of 2020. And so, for those of you that don't know or didn't have, the experience of being in California at that time, we were completely closed for over a year, not able to be open any capacity because we were a salon, so restaurants could do takeaway. We were completely closed. So there was this shock from going to treadmill, raising capital, going through diligence to a complete standstill. And my son turned a year old in April of that year. So 1 month, 2 months in, 6 weeks. And so I would say it was the minute that my son turned 1, I started to have these dreams and visions that would come to me, what is now VSB. And I went, "What? I'm sitting on these boards. I'm in YPO. Like, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that's crazy. I can't do that." And we know where that goes. So for 1 year, it was just me going, "Get out of here. Get out of here. I can't do that." And the second year, I was like, "You're really not going to leave me alone. I see where this is going." And at that point, I left LA on January 6th of 2021. I drove across the country with a cat, a dog, and a toddler. And I was in it. So this was again, I've always had a very robust spiritual life, and I've always had a very, you know, driven entrepreneurial spirit, but they'd like meet each other from time to time, but they had very separate existences until that moment. And the message that came to me was you are going to bring forward the soul and the spirit and all of that and high level business. And I was like, what? That seems like a lot for this little human to do. But it
Okay.
just wouldn't stop. And so year 2 was me just frantically writing and, putting all this stuff down that was coming to me. And year 3 was organizing, recording it, and putting it all together in the package that I mean, I don't know, we didn't discuss when this will air, but potentially it will be live and available, at that time.
Okay. So I'm a little up in the air in that we can talk about what date works best for you. Um, and then we'll do it then. So tell us what VSB is then, because you dropped that in there. But tell us what this vision, and that is very true, right? Like they are guide, spirit, persistent. It's like it's unending if there's a message to get through. So I have learned just listen. And I equate it to like when my kids would go, mom, 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 and you'd say, what? And they're like, hi. And, that's what spirit tenacity feels like. And then it'll turn around again. So you had that experience. So VSB came through. What is VSB?
Well, to touch on what you just said as well, and then I'll get into what VSB it
Okay.
was the book called by Elizabeth called Big Magic, is that with the rainbow? Okay. So I was like, I read that book and I thought if I tell you to go, you're going to go. This idea is gonna go find somebody else. But it would not it would not agree to that with me. It just kept coming. So, what is VSB? VSB really, in a lot of ways, my life's work. And I would say not just this lifetime, but many lifetimes, but certainly this lifetime's work. And it is an online course that has 3 phases, all very unique because people may be in. So, phase one is where a lot of people find themselves starting out. And that's really aligning with our purpose. So I have friends who've created $100 million companies, and you'd think, man, they're in line with their purpose. Wrong answer. They are not. So this is not just if you've never had a company. This is if you feel out of alignment. And I would say, there is an elephant in the room right now that people are not talking about. And that is this. It is we have built a lot of things in our life that no longer serve us, that no longer work for us. So that's phase one. Phase two is all about healing our relationship with money. Now, in my case, I was born into poverty. I mean, real poverty. We got food from the food bank, we got clothes out of garbage bags. I'm no stranger to poverty. And I'm also no stranger to wealth. I worked my way up to the 1%. I flew around in private planes and belong to all the clubs. And there is something that people don't talk about that is also if you're born into a trust fund, right? There's something called wealth poverty that is so, so prevalent in our world today. It might even be just as destructive and, you know, trauma inducing as the other side of that. And so it's really about redefining wealth as an individual. What mountain do you actually want to climb? Because nobody can define that for you. And then number 3 is real world business, but from a spiritual perspective. So we're going to engage the elementals, we're going to engage the hierarchy or whatever you believe in. As we've now aligned with our purpose and healed our money traumas, we're now going to scale, we're going to ramp, and we're the my this all ties to my number one reason that it was important to get VSB out there. Because I'm here for the mothers, the healers, and art led entrepreneurs, because I believe that you have gifts that the world needs right now. They need
Mhm.
you to get business. They need you to align your heart with marketing and get your message out there. And what I have found is that a lot of the people who the world most needs their gift are the ones who just don't feel like business works for them. It feels icky. It feels gross to them. It just doesn't align with their heart. It doesn't align with their integrity. So that's what phase 3 is all about, changing all of that so you feel excited and empowered when it comes to marketing, branding, strategy, and growth.
That is absolutely brilliant, because it takes the whole person into consideration, right? Like, it takes what might be what someone would call a calling or a purpose or a drive and says, "Yeah, that's awesome." And you can do it with support, and we can understand what messages may be there that aren't yours, but became yours. And that's cool, but let's not have them be in charge. And then I agree with you. There's such a need, desire for the nurturing, the healing, but don't underestimate a mother. Uh, you know, so it's the blend. I've never liked the division of feminine and masculine energy. Like when I first started figuring out what is this that's going on, like just give me my spreadsheets and let me be in that world. What is this? Is happening, and I started learning about the division about masculine and feminine. I'm like, yeah, but it's all in there, like kind of like the DNA helix, and we have levels of both. And how can we access both? And it felt like another division that we, message that we've been led to believe. So this shift that's happening, and you're kicked into gear by spirit. Because sometimes it can feel like a good old kick in the choochie boomy, as we say in my family. They and then it 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 it's been my experience that when something is that direct and that loud, it's obviously not for someone else. It it's for you to hear, but it's also because your soul wants to experience it. It's like, I think that gets missed in business sometimes too. And when I work with my entrepreneurs and company leaders and stuff, I'm like, okay, I hear about the business. I want to hear about you. Like, because first and foremost, we're here for our soul's journey.
Mhm.
Um, Start talking about that, be good with that. And then how are we going to help? How are we going to contribute? So it's like, let's get rid of this BS, because that can go the other way, right? We can go to super high woo and not be effective. So you're speaking my love language because it's like the merge of the two of, yeah, we can do this in a loving, caring, compassionate, and then action oriented way because that's fun. That's
So
fun.
fun. And I love that you touched on the masculine and feminine because part of this 3-year journey for me was I thought, okay, have been part of all the ESG conversations. For those that don't know, that's, one of the aspects of that is to get women at the seat at the table. But I really realized, yeah, yes, you're getting, women at the table, but are you getting the feminine at the table? Are you allowing that both within your masculine body? So what I love that there's some terminology, sometimes I use masculine and feminine, but my journey through building this curriculum was I learned because like you said, there was a lot of curriculum out there that was very woo, and people I know who'd taken it were like, I kind of didn't there's nothing to do. Like, it was just a lot of woo, a lot of left out into floating into outer space, but there was no
You're grounded.
so I initially thought the message was I'm really to bring the feminine into high level business. And then I started having all this come to me about two-winged bird and that no, it's actually I would work with people who'd built $100 million company that actually shockingly had to, because we have as female high-level CEOs operate in what we think is a very masculine way when we're in that realm. But actually there weren't the masculine structures in place in these high level businesses that we had to build in. So the feminine, these high level female CEOs, the more feminine, they weren't actually able to flow within their business because they were lacking the structure, the masculine. So I also don't love the term masculine and feminine. So a more accurate term that we use within VSB is the solar and the lunar. And
Mm.
that is, I think, much more accurate because we all possess, obviously, both the solar and the lunar. And, yeah, so that's been really fun to work with.
Mhm. I feel like there's this shift, and let me know if you resonate or if you're like, "No, Vic, I really don't." I feel like there's a shift, like, universally, and I'm talking every level of other universes too, th to help us, integrate, to no longer have to have these, like, binary left, right, up, down, in, out. I know our physical brain loves that, and I will always honor I love that little mush that we have in our cranium, but I feel like there's a call that's happening, and people will feel it whether they understand it or not. That's why leaders like yourself are important because you're like, "Listen, I can demonstrate it." But I feel like there's a call to this integration. I don't know that we necessarily balance things. I don't think that's for us. That might be for nature, but I don't know if that's for us. But we can integrate in such a way that you actually show up in this in your joy and in the possibility of it. And yes, demonstrate it for others until they believe it in themselves. But to bring this acceptance, it's like an acceptance that these are all your wonderful, amazing parts. And let me help you see your wonderful, amazing parts because then there's a joy to be had for those leading too. So I love Earth, Moon. I'm a Cancer. Of course, I'm going to love the sun and moon. And so how, how has it helped you help others to have gone through this? experience yourself of empowerment, such an overused word, but like this lit up feeling, to feel that lit up joy within you. Like, how is that helping you create, run, and impact lives of others that are taking this course?
Yeah, I love that you use the term "lit up" because I think that's what we talk about often is when you're in line with your purpose and you are just living it out in the world, there is this light that emanates from you. And, we say, so in line with your purpose that you light up a room because that is a real thing. And, I believe that maybe, one way to think of it is before we come here to Earth, right? We incarnate, we have a conversation with, let's say we're in a school on the other side, and we have a conversation with maybe our guides or our angel. And we decide, okay, what gifts, what are we coming to heal in ourselves and in the world? And then what gifts, what seeds are we in to, what are we going to bring down the rainbow slide, whatever you want to call it? And of course, we go through this process of forgetting, but we're also going through a collective process of a deep remembering. So I think, we touched on briefly there is a I think the new age movement right now, and I've been a big fan and a big consumer of it, but it is the Wild West right now. And we are lacking some real cosmology and some real framework. And I like to then bring it back to and talk about spiritual science because we can all I think of religions or beliefs as lenses that we can choose, right? And one's not wrong or right, but we can choose a lens to look at the divine with. But there is still the thing we're looking at. And I think it's so important that we start to, in business and in our lives, ha- uh, really get critical and or discerning is a better word. We get discerning about a correct cosmology. And
Mhm.
that brings us to what is our initiation right now as humanity. And if you look back, in ancient times, we had the Oracle of Delphi, right? That was a different time. We were in a different density. And so people would make, these great leaders of nations would make pilgrimages across the land to come and see the Oracle. But a lot of people don't know there was a translator that had to come because she would just the Oracle would receive all these transmissions, but then there had to be a translator that could say, okay, it's a cow and that means this for us and it means this. So there were translators. Well, we're now in a new time. We're in a new epoch. And what is called for, what is needed, the correct cosmology is that must now exist within one individual. We must now be the oracle and the decoder of all of those messages.
And is that like, that's very exciting that each being get to be this, not because it's been handed down or someone tapped you on the head. It's because you are a soul. It's because you were brave enough to do another human life. Although I think curious as well, because it's the curiosity that pulls us from soul into human form. And it's like, yeah, that looks fun. I think I'll go give that a shot. So I think there's an excitement, but have you noticed there's also, I have this video running in my head right now of the picture of it. Is like this people wandering around an airport not really sure where their gate is.
Mhm.
Like, they know they're supposed to be at the airport. They know they're going somewhere, but where's my gate? It's almost like there's a confusion or a little layer of, blurriness there, and people are feeling guided to figure out who they are, to be con curious about who they are. And then to discover this within themselves, that you actually have all this too. It's not about a guru. It's not about going to see anyone out there. But in that confusion, there's I have noticed that there's also a bit of fear, about actually embodying it, almost like there's a learned message of additional responsibility. And it's like, no, actually, we just want you to be you, whatever that is in your gorgeousness. So that was rambling. But keep having this message come through about ask how you are witnessing or seeing this or experiencing it within yourself, because we go through it too. Just because there's a little bit of information does not mean we're not wandering around the airport ourselves going, which freaking gate? Can you just tell me which freaking gate and then I'll get on the plane? Like, have you seen this in people where they have that knowing, they have that idea that they're supposed to be here, but they can't freaking figure out like which is their gate?
Wow. So first of all, Vic, I love that analogy of the airport. And with your permission, I will use it because I think that is fabulous and absolutely accurate as to what I'm seeing out there. And I think that's why the three different courses of VSB, the three different phases, as we call them, are available separately or all together, or you can take three because people I find are in one of these three different gates, yes, you would call them. And so, I have seen people and worked with people in all three different parts of the gate. And it doesn't matter the level of real world success you've had. What we are called to do in this epoch is also bring that masculine and feminine together within one being, right? So to fully inhabit the masculine or the feminine. So to have those supports and boundaries within our lives and within our business and that creativity and empathy and receptivity and flow. And so we can talk about light bodies. Again, this is a spiritual science. So this is something that, we can talk about what the rishis and Vedas call it or what Buddhism calls it, or I happen to work in the Christ stream. I have studied all great religions and I love to study the perennial truths that run through all of it. So the number one thing that we're facing is exactly what what I was facing when I brought this course forward is our light body. There's a lot of talk about manifestation and
Mm.
that's great. You can have whatever you want, but you can't have everything you want. So you can have anything, but you can't have everything.
Mm.
So when we are the purpose we select when we come here is so perfectly organized for us to grow our light body. And manifesting isn't just about bringing in cars and houses and handbags. It's about growing because we don't take that with us. I mean, if we can all agree on one thing, it's that that's not coming with us, right? We're all on the same page there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But what is intriguing is this light body that does come with us lifetime after lifetime that shapes our body and our incarnations. So when we do things like overcome fear, like how on earth can I, as this professional, talk about spiritual? So it's perfectly tailored to what our soul came here to learn, the gifts that we came here to bring.
Mhm.
And when we do the small things, when we feel stuck, how can I ever do this? Because it's always going to be the thing that sounds craziest to you. That's why you came here. That thing is
Yeah.
like, wait, I am not doing that. Just don't ask me to do that is going to be the thing. Like, let's just get that out there. But the more we take those steps in faith and we take action, small things every day. But I always say start with the thing that scares you the most. Take 5 minutes, but start with the email that you've been putting off for 4 months, right?
Absolutely.
Those things grow our light body and they grow our ability to not just manifest, but to hold on to more and more frequency of happiness, joy, and most importantly,
Mhm. Yeah, that cut out there, she said peace. Um, at least that's what I read on your lip.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. It helps to have a daughter who's got a hearing deficit. I'm like, "Oh, no, I just read peace." It didn't come through the mic, but I read uh, we learned to do that across the room. She trained me.
Mm.
Uh, so absolutely everything. Like when I, do a session with someone for the first time, often what I see is what I call their blueprint. And it's what their soul said it wanted to come in to learn. And I what I end up doing is saying, okay, this is what I'm seeing. Take what resonates, throw out the rest. But here's what your soul came in to learn. And that will be one of your greatest challenges here because we didn't come in just to sit around and eat bonbons. It's exciting to learn. It's expansive. It the more you realize you can't know it all, the more exciting it is. But then your human side brings in the ability because you're going to have to carry it through. Well, you don't have to. That's still a choice.
Mhm.
You can sit around and eat bonbons, but then you're gonna have to do more and more lifetimes. I'm always like, okay, what do I need to learn? And how can I minimize the number of lifetimes? I am curious. I want to keep growing, but yeah, I want to see what's next because I'm nutty that way. But this idea of bringing that, I don't know, the word integrity keeps coming to mind, like bringing that integrous intent of being a soul in a body. And then, like you're saying, let's just talk about it. Like, let's get this out in the open. And like one of the reasons I love working with business owners is I feel like that trickles down. Like if you have a business owner who's willing to admit to themselves, at least in their office, that they want to be in alignment and joyfulness and what is their soul asking them to do. And once they line up with that, they usually take a really deep breath and then it's like almost no big deal. It's like the build up to it was the big deal.
Mm.
And then that permission is given to roll. It's like, okay, now we can have action. Now, maybe you have to do the systems or, change things. Maybe you got to free up somebody's future and get them out of the company. So with this light body, I want to go there for just a moment because I've often talked about raising frequency and maintaining that frequency. People don't like to hear that. Well, if you eat a lot of crap or you watch a lot of TV or you drink a lot, you're lowering your frequency. Why are you doing that? You work so hard to get it up there. Why are you sabotaging it? Which is another conversation. But tell share with us some of your experiences, perspective, beliefs about how we can, in this time of we're always in transition, but this is a big transition that's happening right now. How can we best serve, love, it, our light body, so that we can be happy and creating and manifesting and contributing? That probably should have been first, but go for it. So share with us. Give us your brilliance.
Well, I love it. I mean, so the way that we grow our light body is simple, but it's not easy. And so it is through overcoming fear, because fear is what keeps us like this. When we move through, it's like taking off layers and we're able to expand when we just conquer our own fears and we move through them. Another way is through gratitude. Gratitude is an incredible tool because it allows us to actually receive what we already given, the air, the water. To if we could truly take in, which I've had instances in my life that are so overwhelming when I'm in a forest and I just get an instant of the elementals, which is a whole other rabbit hole, and the waves of love and what is given to us is so profound. So there is a calibration within us in our light body that is just built to receive, to really understand how much we are loved, how much we are supported, and how much we are given. And so those two things alone, if you spend, and then there's presencing. So when we are present, that's automatically building our light body. Because when we start to pay attention to what pulls us out of presence, there's a very simple exercise I give people to do, and it is shocking how simple it is, and it is shocking how hard it is. It's that perfect thing of like, how could that be so hard? Because our light bodies are in the nascent stages, right? We are in this deep initiation, right? So just like a womb, a child is in a womb and they're developing their senses. We as humanity have to get the roadmap to where we actually are when it comes to our development. And we are in the womb of the hierarchies. We are in the womb. We are still being formed. Where we are going is so amazing. It's so beautiful. And what the organic human is actually capable of and will be capable of in the future is spectacular. And it takes what is different between the womb and where we're at as humanity. Our senses, our spiritual senses are being formed right now. That's a reality. Whether you believe in it or not, your spiritual senses are being formed.
Mhm.
And what it takes, though, is now we have to activate our will.
Right.
And so, unlike in the womb where it is all given to us, we've already been through that phase. We're out of that phase. We're now in the phase where it takes will. It's going to take work and focus. And hopefully, people, engage with the right roadmaps to get them there. And so it's going to take effort on our behalf, but the rewards are extraordinary.
Mhm. Mhm. And it takes a lot of trust to, I think, connect the dots, because like we can have this conversation and you and I talk from a place of, oh yeah, it's just like that. It absolutely is. And then I always have compassion for like 20-year ago me that was like, there's no that's not true. And then maybe 5-year ago me who was like, "Oh boy, this is gonna be a lot of lifting. I don't know. I'm not real sure about this." To now me that's like, "Let's go. This is so fun." But to people are going to be in any variation of that journey, and I always highlight, I guess, the trust and the bravery that takes because I don't think we talk about that enough. I don't think we acknowledge that, this birthing process from the womb out, that there's a reason we don't remember our own physical births, right? Like, but we're awake for this one. We're paying attention and we get to make conscious choice, which is also a good thing. So I feel like the more we can talk about it, but the more we also acknowledge you said it, it's easy, but it's also very hard.
Mm.
Just that I feel like helps people relax. Like I know it helps me relax to be like, yeah, this is going to be difficult. And yay, let's do this. Because it can be joyfully challenging. It doesn't have to be difficult. That was a wrong choice of word. It can be challenging, but then again, our soul came in and said, well, I love a good challenge. Let's do this. And I think as we do this, we get to, I mean, there's a reason my podcast is called Your Success Compass, is because success is different for everybody. And we get to define on the physical level, on the intuitive level, on the spiritual level, what that looks like. But you got to do a little bit of inventory if you want to be able to define that. So, how has your how have I'm gonna say it a different way. How have you redefined success as you've gone through this growth process over the last, I would say 8 years, but 3 years specifically? Like, how would you give us a little taste of how it's shifted for you?
Sure, I would probably go back even further than 8 years to being, a young girl that was born into, poverty, and then thinking my whole life that the whole goal was to become a millionaire and then to become part of the 1%, and, it was never enough, and you know it's funny because when you arrive to the top of the mountain, like for me, I arrived, that little girl would have been like, "I can't believe this available." And so when you arrive at the top of that, I had to take a real look around and say, "Am I happy? Are the people around me truly happy? Do they look happy on Instagram? Probably. They can get the right shot at the right time, but, like, is there true embodiment?" I like to talk about the difference. So to answer the question, it's the difference between an external, something you could capture in a picture, definition of success, to an internal calibration of something that you can never capture. in an Instagram shot of true happiness and
Mhm.
success and wealth. I would say absolutely wealth.
Mhm.
How brilliant is our universe? I mean, we're talking about like, right now we're going to go into the Advent, the Christmas season. And I think, how brilliant is this universe? The adversary, whatever you believe that to be, our lower self, whatever, has us so programmed at this time of year to consume, 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 to focus on external, 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 when the gift is when we get to redefine what success means to us. Now, I can't tell you what
Right.
success should be for you, and I can't tell anyone what success should or could be for them. What my invitation is before, during, or after you climb that mountain, wherever you are on that journey, I had to get all the way to the top.
Mhm.
You get to define what success and wealth are to you.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so for me, on a really practical level, that meant a lot of simplification. It meant really prioritizing spending time with my young son and bringing my purpose into the world.
Mhm.
And it meant becoming really focused on an internal version of success and happiness.
Mhm. Thank you. Brilliant. Because I have found working with people that, and myself, like my own conversations about this, it it is absolutely can be a combination, right? Like what we consider to be an external success. Like you can be comfortable. You can be very abundant. I've often said that I want to challenge the whole status quo that you can have a large amount of abundance and still be very centered and grounded and giving and caring and generous and ego balanced because I believe we need the little bugger. So it is possible to have both. And I feel like previous messaging has been you can't. But I know it to be that's a fallacy, that the more that we line up with our joy, with our heart, with whatever this word success is, it's just a word, but it's more that happy that you're talking about, that feeling of contentedness, of I like me, I really enjoy who I am. And now let me share her with the world and see if I can spread a little bit of that around and see if it's the good kind of contagious, right? Like let's start that kind of contagion. I really appreciate the combination and the possibility. I feel like you're like this big bringer of possibility, and then you help it become probable for the people that you're working with, right? Like, you're like, here's my belief. I know it's possible. Here are some of the steps. And look, I even have 3 levels that you can enter into depending on where you're feeling the most desire at the time, or maybe need, because need isn't a bad thing. And here, I'm here to help you with this. And oh, by the way, I got the credibility to back it up too. And that's the blend too, right? Like that's the embracing your total brilliance. And I just want everybody to do that. I want everybody to embrace their total brilliance because then we'll be so much nicer to each other. And this energy that we're leading into, right? You talk about the epoch. This is the energy, it's the community, it's the supportive, it's the I might not want what you want, but I want to support you in what you want. And how can I do that? And bringing the wisdom of all of from whence we've come, but then deciding how we want to create it moving forward. And we all get to be a part of that. And it's so exciting. I don't know how I sleep sometimes.
Yeah.
Um,
I
because I'm like, I want to experience all the things. Um, and yet I know don't raise your vibration too fast. You'll get a headache. Uh, so how can people work with you if they want this ray of light that you are?
Mhm. Thank you. You can go to the Venusian School of Business. Now, Venusian as in being from the planet Venus, widely known as the fifth planet. So the Venusian School of Business.com. you have all 3 tracks there, and I think what's also equally important is we have a community that we have formed under a subscription, and you get access to all these videos, a lot of one-on-ones that I do, so you can kind of find your specific area that you're working in, and most importantly, you just talk about community and how important in this epoch community really, and so having a place where you can be with other souls that are on the same path, the same journey, that we can support each other and help uplift each other and, cheer each other on as we and help pick each other up, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. And I love this because it hasn't, well, it will have gone out by the time this goes out, but I just recorded every year I do the energy of the year coming up, right? So, like a little forecast. And the main thing that came up was community and overlapping communities. And like I kept seeing Venn diagrams and the Olympic symbols. And like, it's just it's not like we have to cold, like, go into one gate. Maybe we get all the gates at the airport. And, but it was this community thing. So I love that that already exists because it is going to be necessary for us to mentor up, to connect with and to understand and just have people who get it, like what we're feeling or what this day might feel like, or how we can connect our lights,
Mm,
and shine that out even brighter. Because the people who are, I have a lot of compassion for the people who don't know what's going on because they're going through it anyway. They're going through it too.
mhm,
And I feel like we can be of great service to have compassion and understanding, never allowing for abusive behavior, but a lot, compassion that, oh, bud, you have no clue that you're growing and you're expanding your life body and all that. Maybe I can say one statement that'll help you, in your grocery store or, in wherever you are. So I appreciate the light that you have brought to our little podcast area and that you're doing. And I do hope that you'll come back and we'll have further conversations because it's so exciting.
I would love
Like,
to. Yes, please. Let's continue. I love this.
eh,
Thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. And I think, what I want the listeners to know is when I started on this journey of the past 3 plus years, when I started to feel this disconnect, I felt so alone. I felt like I was the only person going through this. How do I ever put this cat back in the bag? And what I have learned through all the market research that we did is not only are you not alone, but there are millions, literally millions of people across this beautiful planet that feel exactly the same way you do.
mhm.
And together we can rise, together we can hold each other's hand.
Absolutely. I can't add anything to that. It's perfect. So thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Intuition, Your Success Compass. I appreciate you being here. If you would like more information about developing your intuitive skills, removing those blocks, and creating the life that feels the most successful to you, then head on over to VickiBaird.com. That's VICKIBAIRD.com. And check out the courses, the groups, and the Spaces app that will allow you to be part of our community and know about upcoming events and specials. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.